Ready to go. Someday I'll make some kind of a music hookup for this so we can listen to stuff while I hack. But for now, hey, welcome to Throwback Thursday, and I'm really excited about today because Archimedes has been through a lot in the last few months. This is my AI-powered robotic owl familiar. And if you've been paying attention, you've noticed that I took him to Maker Faire Bay Area, to oh man, on this incredibly long and many flights involving tour to Tokyo and Beijing and Shanghai and Shenzhen last month, or 2 months ago now, I guess, in June. And so he's been on a lot of flights and he's put in a lot of time at a couple of other festivals as well. And he is a little bit the worse for wear, so I'm really excited to do some maintenance because it isn't all just about building stuff, it's about maintaining them too. After a certain amount of time, one of his wings have these little hooks or loops on the inside that attach to armature wire, and they don't move on their own, but you can sort of position them. However, one of his wings has actually snapped off. And there's this silver stuff because I was testing what it would look like to sort of coat him in this rub and buff stuff to see if he would look like kind of metallic. Like, people have told me that he kind of resembles an owl from Clash of the Titans, which I've never seen, but I think he looks his best when he's just in his natural blue. Another thing is that his little beak is broken. But the main thing is that his servos, I think, got overworked. And so they started, well, at first they stopped working, and then I let them rest for a while, and then the next time I turned it on, his head like whipped around, sort of exorcist style, which is okay for an owl, but still kind of creepy, especially when it's not what you're expecting. So I thought I would give him a little TLC this morning and let you see what that's like. So the way that his beak is constructed, I think, is one of the more interesting aspects for people who are new to this. This is basically hot glue inside of here, and this shiny stuff is actually a CD that's been cut in half. Let me show you. So there's a really cool, beautiful effect you get when you can make a sort of mosaic out of CDs, because they have this iridescence, right? However, in order to cut them up, you need to first split them in half. Oh, hello there. And you can accomplish that by putting them in boiling water. So you put them in a bowl, pour boiling water over them and leave them for 5 minutes. And then the CD, basically the two layers separate, and you end up with these, sort of translucent layers with this film on. And you can cut that up, which is much easier than cutting it when it's still whole, because in that case you get this sort of splitting. It's really gross. And so I made his beak out of that, and I'll probably just do that again to fix it. This is an old Apple MacBook install CD. Yeah, but before we do that, let's do the electronics. And then also there's this other physical mod, which is replacing the wing. I've got a whole spare pair of wings just for this occasion, so I'm not bothered. His other wing is still doing fine. I'm a little worried that the armature wire that I use to mount them has been getting in the way of the servos, so I'll work on that too. But I got some replacement servos. I originally got these out of the Hacker Box's Vision Quest kit, which is a pan tilt servo that you use to move a camera for face tracking. And since Archimedes is an owl, he pans forward and back and tilts. Well, no. He pans his head side to side and tilts his whole body forward and back. That's what the pan and tilt is. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, I'm gonna have to do a little bit of disassembly here. And then the other thing is that, so he runs on the Google AIY voice kit, or vision kit, my bad, which is a Raspberry Pi based kit that includes a camera and a piezo speaker, and also a little indicator LED. And it's just all housed up in here. I've got these heat shrink shielded pieces of armature wire that hold his head up in place, and so he can just easily go on and off of there. So the kit's example code includes this feature where if you push a button, the arcade button on the top, which has color feedback, he takes pictures. And so I want to pull those off because we've been to a bunch of events together and I'd like to see what's on there. Yeah. You know, I could probably even take off one of these layers of headers on here and just then it'd be a little bit more stable. I need to put some standoffs in here, obviously, to make it a little bit more robust. But yeah, so just general tune-ups and stuff. But first I want to replace the servos because I think that's the key thing for getting this all set up. I've got lots of electrical tape and foam tape for insulating the Raspberry Pi from any potential electrical, you know, conducting things. So like the metal servos, for example. Actually, is that metal? It could be plastic. But there's a bracket that it's mounted in. And that is definitely made of metal, so I wanted to make sure that I didn't interfere with that. I'll have to make sure that I mount the servos the same way so that the code still works. I wonder what the best way is to do this. Let's unhook this LED from around there. This is the indicator LED that tells you that the kit is on and running. Maybe I'll take the Pi out entirely, or at least I'll take off that extra set of headers. So this is this custom little bonnet, which is a hat for the Raspberry Pi, but for the Raspberry Pi 0 or 0W. The Pi 0W is what's powering this. And so a little hat is the same as a bonnet, right? So that's what we've got on here. I'm going to take off this extra set of headers. And for the Pi, what I did was I decided to power him directly to the power and ground pins instead of having a plug in there because I figured that it takes up less space. So now this is already a little bit more compact and rugged, but I could still use a couple of standoffs in there. Let's get those servos out of there. And for that, I'm going to use my little Leatherman pliers. This is a Leatherman Squirt, I think. Oh yeah, Leatherman Squirt PS4. It's a great little tool, and this one has Intel branding on it because it's cool. It's from our ambassador program. And then just like a Phillips head screwdriver. So let's get these little servos out of here. I'm going to try and move the wires off to the side as well. Okay, cool. So that's nice and exposed there now. Can I do this without removing the Pi? I hope so. Yeah, cool. Now, is this the proper way to do this? Yeah, okay. Order of operations is very important here. You know what? I will also have to remove it from the other bracket. So what we've got here is a little circular mount on the servo, and it attaches to this part of the bracket here. And then the thing that I just undid attaches it to the other bracket. So I'll have to remove both of those, and I've got to make sure that I keep track of my little screws and nuts, or bolts and nuts rather. So maybe I'll pull this guy out too. Yeah. So in order to do that, I have to detach the bottom servo from the bracket so that I can get at the screws that are attaching the top servo to the bracket as well. I'll just take apart the whole thing. He's been through so much, and I need to get a really solid case for him is the other thing. I was being pretty careful with him in my backpack and stuff, but he really needs something more robust. Here's that other bolt there. Okay. This kit is kind of interesting. It had this little metal piece that just had a thing that sticks in here to hold this hole on the bracket in alignment with the outer bracket, but it didn't actually have any way of attaching it, and so it just kind of fell out all the time. And if I were to do it again, then I would probably hot glue it in or something, but it needed to be able to rotate freely, so it was a little complex. These servos, by the way, the type is MG996R, and I got just 4 of them off Amazon so that, you know, for the future I'll have them. Cool. Oh, we have people saying hi from Buenos Aires in Canada. Hello, what's up? All right, let's get him disconnected. Now, okay, in order to maintain the positioning, what I want to do is have some kind of absolute reference. So I think I'm going to move both of them so that they are at the leftmost position, and then see where they end up. Does that work for you? Can you go that far? Yeah. Okay, so in your leftmost, you're at the top. All right. I'm going to make a little mark. Yeah, that's as far as that goes. Normally when you're working with servos, you don't want to move them by hand too much because that can make the gears unhappy. But in this case, I'm replacing them anyway, so whatever. And then this one, to make it go the leftmost, I'm going to do this. Move this wing out of the way. Might have to tilt it a little bit more. Okay. Huh, that seems to be as far as it goes. All right. Where's the other? Here we go. Here's the other one that I was removing. Gotta get all the little bolts out. It's kind of hard to reach everything in here, but we'll get there. Right now I'm just holding the nut in place with my thumb while I rotate this bolt to remove it. There we go. Felt it release, and the nut is out, but the bolt is binding a little bit because things have come out of alignment. There we go. There, nut and bolt out of the way. Okay, so now this top bracket is free. Whee! You can see it come apart. All right. So now I'm gonna do this one first actually because it's easy to see how it aligns. So let's pull out this new servo. And the way that these are attached is that I just soldered them into an Arduino Uno. I'm going to hold off on resoldering them until I've got the physical assembly done, because I think I also want to reconfigure how the Arduino is attached. So yeah, that looks like the same servo. Cool. Digi high torque. Excellent. And maybe I can even just pull this. Oh no, okay, so there's one screw holding the servo into the little circle mount that attaches it to the bracket. Ha! Come back. Where'd you go? There. Oh. All right. And with that off, I should be able to just pull this. Ah. Ooh! Okay, there we go. Cool. Bottom one's out. And I'm going to put this in, but I need to make sure that it is also turned to its leftmost extreme. So I'm going to grab the pliers and do that. Okay, so that should be aligned now. And if I push it in, it should mate. Gotta make sure that I'm actually on screen. when I'm doing this. I think that's pretty good. Where did that little, there we are. Oh yeah, I can see from the inside that it's not quite flush yet, so I'm going to keep wiggling. And that looks pretty much flush. There we go. And, you know, when I put the screw in, depending on how much friction there is, it might also help pull them together and mate them. With plastic ones, that's definitely a lot easier. And I screwed to the left just a little bit at the start to make sure that I didn't cross-thread it. That's when they're not actually mated. There we go. And you can sort of destroy some of the threading that way. Cool, so this bottom one is now replaced. Let's do the top one. Okay, so you can actually turn a little bit more then, huh? Okay, so there we go. That makes more sense. All right, so we've got this kind of right angle thing going on when it's at its leftmost. So let's go and replace that now. And I should be able to do kind of the same thing. If I, you know what? There's not enough space in this one to just back it out. Oh yeah, there is. If I just, okay. I'll show you what I'm doing. So I'm doing that thing again where I pull out the little screw that attaches the servo to the circular servo head thing. There we go. It helps that my screwdriver is a little bit magnetized. I'm going to pull this out. It's a little tough, but there's nothing else attaching the two together, so come out of there. Oh, come on. I'm going to make sure that this round mount is actually well attached to the black bracket. It looks like it was a little loose. Let's get his bow tie out of the way there. Maybe you can actually see. There we go. So I'm just tightening these little screws that attach the circular servo head to the bracket. That'll keep him nice and secure. Cool. All right, now let's pull this out. It's being a little stubborn. Oh, there we go. Ha! Okay, so again, it's sort of this right angle thing. Label goes over the left wing. Okay. And in here also I've got these armature wire things poking through a couple of the holes in the bracket to hold the head up. That's these ones that are covered in heat shrink tubing. So what I need to do is detach the servo from here. Once I've loosened it a little bit, I can probably get the screwdriver in there. Let's take this off for now. There we go. Hold the nut in place with my thumb while I unscrew it. I've been playing around with generative music, by the way, so that we can have some other cool stuff to listen to while I do this. All right, so now this servo is pretty much free. If I can get this screw out of there. I think I can just, there we go. Okay, pull out. Ah! It's a tight fit. There we go. Now I want to put the other one in, the new one. Turn it all the way to the left, like with the other one. swap it in here. This other piece of armature wire is being a bit of a jerk too. There we go. Align it, slot it in, get it over this screw, bolt. I always say the wrong word for those. All right, there we go. Oh no, you stay there. All right. Get you threaded on there. And the other one. Maybe you can just put on your own music while I'm doing this. I would play music for you just off of Spotify, but then I would get hella, copyright takedown notices, and it would be bad. Okay, cool. So now the armature wire pieces are back in place for holding up the head. Mostly. Get in there. Close enough. Cool. That servo has been replaced. I'm going to pull this one out. Get it out of the way. I could just snip the wire, but I don't quite feel like doing that yet, so... Oh no, I'm kind of going to have to, aren't I? Okay, fair enough. So, the top servo... I'm just going to label this, in fact. That'll make it easier. So for those who are newcomers, I'm swapping out the servos on this robot bird because it was a little worse for the wear after some travels that it had recently. So, in fact, what about some tape? I used to have masking tape, but... Oh, here, tiny Post-its. Perfect! Top. So, let's see. This top servo is attached to this wire. I've got this scarf on here because it helps with padding when I'm wearing it, and also helps cover up some of the wires and make it a little bit more organic. So now I've put this top label on the one servo. I'm going to do the same for the old bottom servo, so that I know which wire is which when I'm connecting up the new ones. Okay, this is the same wire. Okay. I guess I could have just done by like process of elimination. There's only 2 servo wires in there. So as long as one of these labels stays on, I'm good. Cool. All right, so now let's cut off these old ones. Since they're soldered into the Arduino for control, I'm just gonna cut them off. And then it will be much easier to reassemble the little guy. Okay, so the bottom one also gets a little bit of connection. Where are the other? Here we are. Here's the other mount piece. Okay, so we've got the new servo. It's going to get attached to here. Having a little trouble with spacing here. I think I just need to like move this wing around so that it's not going to interfere with the servo. Part of the issue I think that happened with Archimedes is that there were some collisions, and so the servos were kind of straining against these physical boundaries that they had. So here I'm slotting the top servo into part of the bracket that connects it. There we go, got a nice click for the connection. Mm-mm. I'm wrangling some wires up near his head right now just to make sure that there's no strain on them. There we go. Perfection. Actually, I think his head goes like this. Yeah, cool. Now let's reconnect this to the other servo. So the front of the robot is over here, I think. Yeah. So he goes like this, something like that. Where does the thing connect? Mm-mm. There we are. That left wing is really getting in the way as I try to rebuild this. So I might have to like rework how it's positioned in the future. Oh, I see. You got kind of crunched up, didn't you? All right. Go on there. Go. There. Cool. All right, now he's pretty much reassembled. I have to keep remembering to make sure it's actually on the screen. Okay, so this bracket is now aligned well. We've got this servo aligned over top of this metal piece that connects it to the other bracket. And we should be about ready to go. Cool. So this is the front of the body. All the wires go down my back, and that's how they connect to the batteries and stuff. And then, yeah, this can tilt forward and back, up and down, and then his head can tilt side to side. So I'm going to replace these screws that attach his little body together. This is attaching the top servo to the bottom one. Just finger tighten it until I can't anymore, and then use my finger to hold the nut in place while I screw it on. Yeah, your wing is really kind of not well positioned for it right now, is it? Okay, that's kind of tight, so I'm gonna use the pliers to hold that nut. Nice, that's pretty good. And now the other one on the back. Wing's really in the way on this one. Yeah, turn your little head. There we go, we got some more space now. So when he's actually running, he's got a bunch of controls in the Arduino code to make sure that he doesn't go beyond his limits, and that kind of helps with positioning. Yeah. Right now the Arduino code, basically what I did with it is made this set of commands that just generate a random position. First I calibrated the servos to make sure like where their endpoints were, where they were comfortable operating in the code, like between these degrees and those degrees. And right now the Arduino is basically just saying pick a random spot for each of the servos within its comfortable range and go to there, and then like pause for a bit and then go to another random couple of positions, which gives him an oddly lifelike set of behaviors. He's I could have him do it face tracking, honestly. I might do that in the future, but for now I kind of like the fact that he's a little bit shy. And it makes him a little less creepy too, I think, because he's not actually doing face tracking, even though he's doing facial detection. And the Google AIY code that I'm using detects people's emotions. Gotta try and get this in there. It's a little hairy, but I don't want to disassemble the whole robot. I just want to replace a couple of servos. There we go. So I'm screwing in the final bolt to attach the bottom servo to its the top bracket. Cool, that's nice and secure. All right, so now he's back to being a whole robot. There's a couple things left to do. Do you have space? You're good? Yeah, okay, cool. Yay! So his servos are fixed. That's great. Need to pull this wire around to the other side of his head. The power cable for the Raspberry Pi is currently kind of all up in his business, so... Oh no! It's under the wing! Oh, that's okay, I can just pull it through. Go around here. There, that's not going to get in your way. I've got all the power cables labeled at the other end so that when I'm plugging them into the batteries, I can tell what's what. All right, so basically what I need to do is cut these servo wires and attach them to the Arduino, where the old ones were. I've labeled those. And I also need to replace the right wing, which snapped off eventually. It's attached by a couple of little loops to the armature wire. And I need to replace his beak, which is a little bit the worst for wear, but it's pretty sturdy. I'm always surprised by how stable this CD stuff is. It's cut up CDs and then just attached with hot glue. So it doesn't even look that bad, you know? Yeah, let's do the replacing of the wing right now. So basically I've got these bits of armature wire, which is this aluminum wire that you can get at art stores for sculptures. And so, you know, if you see a really intense plaster sculpture, they'll often build an internal armature, basically the skeleton, out of this stuff. And I've just made it so that this wire, it loops through the servo brackets. I might have to replace this, I don't know. I think it'll be okay though. And then it also loops through the wings themselves. So I'm just re-straightening it so that I can thread on the wing like this. And these are 3D printed on our Lulzbot Taz 6 printer with Talman N-Vent filament, which I think they've stopped selling now, but it's just, you know, whatever kind of filament would work. It's just sort of similar to PLA in its behavior. I think it wants to have a heated bed, but I've put the 3D files up on the Hackster project, which you can find in the description to this video or at bit.ly/robotowl. Let's get this up and running, huh? So I'm just sort of wiggling it in. And it's not too precise, you know. Oh, there's a little bit that's kind of in the way there. So the bottom of the print did not come out as clean as I would like, but that's okay because no one sees it. It just means that I want to smooth it out a bit before I try to put this whole thing together. Someone says hello from Tunisia. Hello! So cool. When I stream in the morning, I guess I get people from all over the place. This is so cool. Don't want to break the 3D print. So I gotta get kind of the right curvature on here. Come on. And if it does end up breaking or something, I think I can easily just come up with a new system that will fix that. I left pretty big holes in here, so it should be able to fit the armature wire. But, oh, there we go. Cool. I think I heard a slight click or snap or something, but I think it'll be okay. And I'm just sort of wiggling this until the wire is all the way in, and I can kind of bend it around. There we go. Cool. Beautiful. He's got two wings again. Check that out. And so now I'm going to move this around and loop it into the servo bracket so that it's supported on both ends. Robot surgery. It's a cool day. I'm really happy to be fixing this guy because I love him. You know, he's basically my little pet friend, you know? Archimedes and I have had some very good times together. Let's bend this, pre-bend it so that it goes into the bracket easily. I'm just using pliers and my thumb to kind of get it into the right shape. Oop. There we go. I think it is cool to show you both the initial build of things, but also some maintenance. A lot of projects end up just kind of forgotten on the shelves, but it's really cool when one of them can kind of keep living and not end up, you know, because e-waste is a thing, clutter is a thing. I think a lot of people who work on hardware, myself included, are kind of pack rats because, you know, you want to have stuff. You get excited about building things, so you end up with a lot of things around, and you know, a lot of the time you want to keep things around for materials as well for new projects, and there's a lot of value in repair and just knowing how to, and having the motivation to sort of keep things alive. Oh, I see what happened with the other wing now. There we go. Haha! Haha! Look at that. Cool. He's got his little, like, feathers in the front that's kind of like a bow tie. Okay, let's get this other wing up and running, shall we? And now I need to bend this around to make sure that it stays in place. And doesn't just come right back out. Oh, really straining this little Leatherman. But it's working okay. Cool. What if I get a different angle on it? There we go. Okay. He definitely looks like he's been through something, but that's cool. I like that he seems like he's seen the world, because he definitely has. We had this awesome time on the ARM Innovator Tour, and Archimedes got to meet a lot of cool people. I'm just going to kind of bend it around so that it matches kind of how I want it to look. And kind of want it to sit a little higher. So I'm going to this armature wire stuff is pretty tough. And the 3D prints themselves are pretty tough as well. Hey, look at that! We've got 2 wings again! Aw, yeah, cool. Alright. Archimedes lives once more. The other thing I want to do is make sure that the Arduino code is actually solid. Because, I don't know, it could have been the servos that failed. I think it was the servos that failed, but I want to check and make sure that he'll still work. Advance warning, he may do something disturbing. Who knows? If I forgot something or programmed something poorly, then we might get a surprise. Don't freak out. It's all going to be fine. It's all part of testing. I'm going to make sure that none of this wire is going to get in the way of his servos. That seems fine. Cool. Oh, one of these armature wire things is rotated around. So again, his head sort of sits on these other pieces of armature wire that have been coated in heat shrink tubing. And actually, while I'm at it, I might as well heat those so that they actually shrink down. I just sort of slotted it over. No, you know what? Yesterday I set something on fire in the office by playing with the lighter, so I'm not going to do that right now. But I'll put his head on. Cool. And I think that should be pretty safe. Let's get these wires out of the way. Yeah, I do want to, because I think what was happening before was that the servo was ramming into the wing a little bit, and that caused a lot of stress on the gears. So I want to make sure that doesn't happen again. sure you're out of the way. Lots of physical tuning on here, but that's partly why I didn't make like a complete 3D printed chassis. I wanted to have room to play, basically. A lot of this is about play. Doo-doo-doo. Come here. Because see, he still has space to ram into that there. I don't really want that to be possible at all, regardless of his programming. Plus, I really enjoy the tactile nature of messing around with this with pliers and stuff. It leaves some room for sort of physical creativity. I've always been more of a physical maker rather than someone who liked to spend a lot of time doing 3D modeling and stuff. 3D modeling is awesome, but I find that the more time I spend sitting on the computer, the more I want to go back to spending time messing around with stuff with my hands. Well, I think that'll be okay. I might try to just kind of fold this wing out of the way for now. It's rather complex. There we go. Okay, that's pretty safe, right? Yeah. Okay, he can rotate his full way and not crash into himself. All right. Okay. Moment of truth. Let's plug in the Arduino and servos. And it may be that the Arduino is broken too, but I have a replacement Maker 1000 just in case that's the case. And I'll have to find the right code that I ended up using in the end. It's probably like called Archimedes servo code v3 final for real or something like that. So that means I have to unplug some other stuff. That's fine. Unplugging everything. Okay. Say hello, Archimedes. Kind of plugging everything in via USB with one hand is a little bit complex. Alright, so the Arduino is on now. And the servos are on. I'm not getting any feedback yet, though. Oh, of course not! Because I haven't soldered them on yet. Duh. Okay, let's do that. Unplug everything again. Now you get to see what's sort of the secret part of Archimedes, which is this bundle of stuff that's sort of concealed in the scarf. Ooh, did I forget to reattach one of the... Ooh. Well, okay. So this top servo right now is not super stable because I forgot to put back in the little screw that attaches it to the silver disc mount. So I think I'll leave that until the next time that I need to do maintenance because right now it'd be a huge pain and a big delay. I might do it again after the video is over. But yeah, that's a good thing to know about. Okay, so this scarf basically conceals a bunch of the wires and stuff and makes it a lot more comfortable for me to wear. And down here, sort of coming out of the scarf, is the Arduino Maker 1000. In a really obviously sort of last minute kind of way, I attached, or I covered it in masking tape to sort of insulate it from stuff. Got a huge tangle of wires right here. And there are better ways of doing that, obviously, but that's what I did, so that's what we've got. And right now I'm just going to try and solder these servos in. So here's the old servos cables. And I had sort of knotted them up in the scarf for strain relief, which is not especially effective strain relief, you might notice. But again, last minute. Alright, so we've got the bottom servo and the top servo. And we're going to replace those wires with the new ones. And I'm going to put on some actual strain relief this time, I think. I want to kind of thread these through the chassis of the robot so that they don't get caught on stuff while I'm out and about. Okay, here's the new wires coming through. There isn't really a good place to attach these to the Arduino, so what I'll probably do is attach these now, and then later on I'll 3D print something to kind of hold everything together, and I'll just like put a bunch of hot glue on it so that that helps with strain relief. There's also an extra messy bit here because I had another servo that was going to open and close a little box that he was going to have. And so actually it's kind of good that those servos died because there's a lot that needs to be upgraded on here because it was made kind of last minute for Maker Faire. And so I'm not that surprised that he's kind of like gone through a lot in the last few months and kind of the servos were just like, oh, I've had enough of this. Alright, so here's the two new servo wires. Here's the two old servo wires. And there's this huge mess of cables that are like for power and stuff. This is for the little other servo that's no longer with us. And yeah, I had attached power and ground. You know, I might just leave those be because I did a whole bunch of like hot glue and stuff to hold this in place. So these are the ones that go to the Arduino, so I can just do those straight from the servos and then attach the other ones to the old wires. I should eventually just redo this whole thing though. There's good ways to do that and there's not so good ways to do that, and I think I'm not going to deal with it right now on camera because it'll take a while. But just in the interest of testing this, let's attach the old wires to the new ones. And then I'll fix it up afterwards. This stream is also getting kind of long, so I'm going to try and make it a little more snappy. Alright, so this guy is the top servo. That's this one. Yeah. Sure, I'll leave the label on, why not? And I'm going to pull out my heat shrink. I'm going to do this in a way that is really convenient for me, which is that I take a couple pieces of big heat shrink that will fit over the whole wire. And in order to connect the two, okay, wait, let's double check where the top one is again. That's this one? Yeah, top servo, okay. In order to splice these two together, basically I'm going to cut them in a staggered way. So we have these three separated, right? we have these three separated. I'm going to slip a piece of heat shrink over the whole thing. And I'm going to cut them in different lengths. In fact, I'm going to stagger them even more. So what I have is 3 separate splice points that won't interfere with each other. I'm going to strip these. And then I do the opposite with the other ones. So now the brown one is going to stay long. The orange one is going to be middle length. And the light yellow one is going to be the shortest. So we end up with these kind of matched splice lengths, see? And then I can use one piece of heat shrink to cover the whole thing. I do have to make sure that I'm a little careful about this because, well, first off, I've got to match my wire lengths. But when you solder to a piece of wire, often the shielding on it will sort of peel back a bit from the heat. Unless you're using silicone wire, which is really useful for stuff like wearables because it's really flexible, but also it's very heat resistant. This is not, I think, the fancy silicone coated wire, and so I'm going to have to watch and make sure that as the shielding peels back, they don't start to get in danger of shorting each other out. But let's strip all of these. And I am stripping them a little bit, just like only a little bit, because of that same thing, that when I apply heat, they're going to start peeling back a bit more. Here's my third hand. All right. I'm going to tin all the ends. Being careful not to get my scarf in the way here. So those 3 ends are now tinned. I'm going to do the same with the ones in the third hand here. Uh-oh. I didn't twist these together because they're so short that twisting them really won't do much. Okay. There's my brass coil. Here we go. Clean off the end here a little bit. All right, so now I'm going to solder them together. Oh, that one didn't really get tinned very well, did it? Oh no, it did. Okay. It's just got a little stray. That looks nice and shiny. Third one. So yeah, even though these are all kind of side by side, there's no real danger of them shorting because they're all staggered. That came out pretty neat. And now I'm going to slide the heat shrink over all 3 joints at once. And it just covers them. Yeah, cool. And now I am going to break out the lighter again. Watch out. But I'm going to pull it away from the scarf, obviously, because that would be bad. Okay. Let's get the third hand out of the way. This is a pretty effective and efficient way of melting heat shrink together. But you can also, another thing that I will sometimes do is just use a hot glue gun and just inject hot glue into the end, because that can provide some extra strain relief and stuff. So see how this is kind of shrunk onto the whole joint there? Gonna do it some more. Get it from all angles. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And so now it's covering all 3 wires that have been spliced together. I'm sure there's better ways of doing this, but this works for me. Cool. And it's also temporary, so... I mean, okay, this is the thing. I know that temporary fixes often end up being more permanent, and that's okay. If this ends up being... I mean, at least it's a little bit better than the previous version. But I am going to actually fix up this little tangle of wires in here, which is kind of gross right now. Okay, so same thing again. I'm going to cut the attachment off of the new one. And actually, given the length of these wires here, I'm ending up with a much longer servo wire than I had before, because I've basically got the old servo wire as well as the new one. And I don't think that the connections were any issue with the malfunctioning because, well, they would still move, just in an extremely distressing way. Yeah, you can see an interesting wear point on here, actually. There's this, like, silvery, I think that's from the armature wire. It kind of rubs off on stuff. That's why, like, you know, if you wear aluminum jewelry, for example, it can leave sort of black or green marks on your skin. Here we go. Same deal again. I'm going to cut the brown one short on here. Orange one to sort of middle length. I'll probably make them a little closer. There we go. And then for the other one, the brown one is long to sort of match it. And the orange one is middle length. I might cut this brown one shorter just to make sure. Okay, and I've already slid the heat shrink onto the other piece just to make sure. And I can check that will actually cover the whole joint if I do this. Cool. So now, yeah, brown one long, orange one middle. And you want them to, they will eventually overlap like a little bit because that's how you splice wires together. But you don't need to worry about that too much. All right, and then the yellow one is going to be short. All right. How's that? Shorter. If you don't match up the lengths well, then you can also end up with one of the wires being sort of like shoved up a little bit. I'm getting a call for some reason, but nothing can be that important. Oh no! Yeah, okay. So I'm almost done here, and then I'm going to have to get on to other stuff today. But I do want to pull off all the pictures that are on here later on and show you what's on there. Because we got a bunch of stuff from the Asia tour, from Maker Faire, from this Kodame Art and Technology Festival that happened in San Francisco. All kinds of cool stuff, so it's a very good Throwback Thursday kind of project. And yeah, so part of the reason that I'm renovating Archimedes is because I'm bringing him to DEF CON next week. So for a couple days I'll be at the Blockchain Village and then also just kind of wandering around with a camera, looking at stuff, interviewing people. So if you have some cool stuff that you want us to come check out, you should definitely let me know. You can comment on this video or just like drop me a line at alex@Hackster.io and I'll be happy to come check something out. That is the whole point of my existence right now. Come back, third hand. Where did you go? Here we are. So I've got these wires tinned. Now I'm going to do the new ones. Get that scarf out of the way. If I wanted to be like really rigorous about this, I would have taken the scarf off completely, but it can be kind of a pain to retie it. I've already done that a couple times and trying to get this kind of done quickly since you're watching live. If y'all have any questions, I'm definitely happy to take those. I don't see any questions yet, but oh, whoa, we've got tons of people. ¿Cómo te llamas? Me llamo Alejandra. My name is Alex Glow. Cool. Someone was watching from Kuala Lumpur. That's so cool. Someone's excited about the splicing trick. Okay, cool. So let's keep tinning here. If you're watching on Facebook, I can see your comments. Like every once in a while, I'll take a look. But I'm mostly focused on this. If you're on YouTube, sadly, I will not see them until afterwards. Just so you know, don't feel neglected. All right. All right, so now let's solder these guys together. Double checking that I've already put the heat shrink on first, because that has bitten me way more times than I care to remember. I want to make sure these are like compatible lengths. That's pretty good. But I'll probably try and overlap them a little bit. Nope, let's strip that a little bit more. And cut it down. All right. I got a bunch of stuff on my desk right now. I've got like my tea, I've got this brass coil, I've got all the different tools and stuff, including the hot glue that I might need later on. Need a little more solder on there. All right, where'd you go? Here we are. All right, one more. And again, I want to make sure that they lie pretty much in a straight line, so I do need a little bit more trimming on here. All right. Like, if you think that the video screen looks jumbled, you should just see the rest of the desk. It's kind of incredible. There we go. Beautiful. Okay. That's pretty much, you know, more or less in a straight line. It'll totally work. And it all fits inside of the heat shrink. Cool. Checking where the ends are. Put it about there. All right, back to the lighter. I haven't set anything in the office on fire yet today, so let's hope that the luck holds, huh? Get you out of there. All right, got a little sort of open space. All right. Hey, now my lighter is not cooperating. Keeping the flame constantly moving keeps it from burning. And hitting it from all directions. This flame is not really going to melt the solder. It would have to be rather hotter. But it could potentially harm the shielding on the wires. So yeah, just enough to sort of make sure that it's all nice and tight on there. And it is now. Beautiful. Cool. Don't burn yourselves. Cool. So now let's plug in the things and see if it works. This is the moment of truth. I'm really nervous. And you know, if something does go wrong, it's not the end of the world. Everything's still gonna be fine. There's a huge tangle of wires here. I'm gonna be fixing that. It's not fixed just yet. We're just testing to see if this works. With those disclaimers, let us plug in, once again, the Arduino and the servos, and see if we can get this to work. All right. Oh boy, I'm really nervous. I really want him to live again. Oh, you're just having problems with that bracket, huh? Okay. Well, alright. And I'm gonna reconfigure everything after this, but... Oh, boy! Okay, Archimedes, are you ready? Wait, is that the Pi? Oh, that's the Pi. I need the servos. Okay. Put him in front of the thing. My hand is kind of out of the way of his tilting servo. Gonna plug these in. He moved. That's a good sign. That's because the servo's got power. They'll typically twitch once they get power, but they have no control because their power and data switches are separate. So, what's happening here is that he's doing exactly what he should be doing, but in a very small way. Like, normally he would be moving a lot more than this. And it's possible that he just got a bunch of, like, small random values at the start. But my guess is that there's something sort of hokey in the data line or something somewhere. So he needs to be rewired anyway. But yeah, so after this, I'm going to fix his beak. I might do that real quick anyway, because it's only 12. Yeah, I'll fix his beak real quick. And then we'll have like a complete robot once more, which will be very exciting. And then I'll like do the rewiring off screen. And then we'll come back later and we'll have a look at the photos. It makes me so happy. It makes me really happy to see him moving again. I haven't got the Pi plugged in, which is his like real brain, you know, the thing that like makes him make noise and actually look at people and stuff. But this is exciting. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. Oh, you know what? You're kind of getting your strength back, aren't you? Cool. He's got so much personality. It's just random movement, but it feels like a real guy, right? Cool. So let's unplug this. I'm going to fix his beak real quick on screen because I want to show you how that works. It's really cool. And then we'll be back with some photos that he's captured over the months. It's been months. Archimedes, you're like 4 months old now. What is it, August? Made it in May. Never mind. Only like, really more like 2 months or 2.5 because it was for Maker Faire. All right. So what I'm gonna do here, maybe I'll just replace the one side. Because this side looks a little bit banged up, but I think it's really just smudged. Oh, it's just smudged! Cool! I already had to fix his beak once at Tokyo Hackerspace. And so what I'm gonna do here is just cut another piece of this CD that matches the existing half. And then glue it on. It'll be cool. And I can just use regular scissors to cut this. I'm going to kind of match this up. Let's see. I don't really care which way. So it needs to be mirrored, right? Yeah, okay. I don't really care which way the little iridescent shinies go. Maybe I'll mark it first with like a pen. I think ballpoint pen isn't going to work very well on this, but I can try. So sort of like that, and sort of like that. Cool. Maybe a little wider. There we go. Cut this with the pen. Or, not with the pen. You don't cut things with pens, Alex. Wait, I still managed to do it weird. Yeah, that doesn't quite match. I think I made it more to match the same side. Yep, whoops. Well, now I have a spare for that side, but I still need to make a mirrored imaged one. So let's just do this. I'm gonna put it like this and draw its opposite. It is kind of nice to have spare parts, though. It's very useful. There we go. Cut this guy out. Yeah, if you try to cut this while it's an entire CD still, it'll just kind of delaminate. But by cutting or boiling the CD first, yeah, that's pretty good. Then you get it, you make it cuttable. I think it still needs a little bit of reshaping, so I'm gonna do that. How's this? Oh, that looks quite handsome. Cool. All right, so now I've always put it together with hot glue in the past, and I think that's what I'm gonna do again. I'm just gonna take this off. I can just kind of pull it off. And then he's got no nose. Oh, it's so weird. And then I can kind of hold these in place like that. Oop, and then squirt some hot glue underneath. And that'll be good. Make sure that this is all lined up well. Cool. And it ends up being really sturdy, like I mentioned. It's kind of surprising. I want to get the angles right and stuff. Okay, time to plug in the hot glue gun. This is another part of the process that's kind of inexact and just purely aesthetic. And that's cool too. Somebody made a 12 Monkeys reference. Cool. Apparently the cams are asynchronous. Yeah, that's too bad. Moments of truth. I'm just looking at the comments while we're waiting for the hot glue gun to heat up. No nose is better. Voldemort owl. No, I don't want a Voldemort owl. Archimedes is good. You're good, right? You're one of the good robots. You're not gonna come for me when the robot apocalypse happens. That's what I keep telling myself anyway. We're friends, right, Archimedes? He relies on me anyway to get around. He sits on my shoulder. Dropped a piece of his nose. There we go. Yeah. If I weren't here, then who would fix your nose when you break it? I mean, there would be no one like shoving you in backpacks, but you'd never get to see the world. I think robots love their creators, except that guy in Blade Runner. You're not gonna pull a Blade Runner on me. I know where your plug is. Trying to clean up the... Like, there's some hot glue left on here, but I'm kind of using that as a guide. It's all gonna kind of melt into place once I put more heat on anyway. How's that? That's kind of good. Nah, I'll take that off. It'll be easier to make it symmetrical. There we go. Just making sure that the point kind of lines up with itself. Awesome. Alright, is this ready? Not really. Need another glue stick. Fortunately, I have a ton of those for just such occasions. Ugh. Oh, there's a bunch of gross old yellow hot glue in here. Alright. Grab the nose again. I think after hot glue's been like heated and cooled a bunch of times, it gets kind of nasty. Alright. Once more. I'm gonna check the alignment. That looks pretty good. You got some snot there. He's like, this is so humiliating. I know it's humiliating, but you'll feel better afterwards. Does everyone else talk to their robots? I think so. I think everyone does. I even talk to my projects that aren't robots, like if the LEDs aren't behaving or something, like, get in line there. Do your job. I think it helps to squirt a little extra in, and then you can always just kind of wipe it away, but it helps fill up the cavities. He's like, I don't have cavities. Yeah, I'm already assigning like a little sassy personality to my owl robot. Whatever. Everyone does it. Squirt. And smooth it away. I'm so used to burning myself on hot glue now, I don't even think about it. Okay, yeah. I was a little worried there for a second because it was still wiggling around a little bit, but now it's kind of cooled and dried, so it seems pretty stable. Alright, let's see. Show him your new face, Archimedes. There we go. His head's kind of flopping around. I should stabilize that a little bit. But after we do the memory dump. Cool. So, I'm really happy that I now have a physically working robot again that has all his pieces, parts in the right places. Again, later on, I'm going to pull out all the photos that he's taken at different events, and we're going to have a look through them. I know, it could be embarrassing for you, huh? And I hope to see you at DEF CON or at another event in the future. Archimedes and I are going to be running around with cameras doing stuff like checking out people's projects and stuff and bringing them to you on the internet. Hope to see you in real life sometime. And be sure to say hi if you see us around. Alright, ciao. Have an awesome rest of your Throwback Thursday.